Welcome to Gospel Truth with Andrew Wommack, a teaching ministry that focuses on God's unconditional love and grace. And now, here's Andrew.
Welcome to another special edition of the Gospel Truth broadcast. We're taping this in our lodge up in Woodland Park, where we're going to be building our Charis Bible College facility. We have a new set that's being designed. Shouldn't be very long until you're able to see it on our television program. But temporarily, we're here in our lodge in Woodland Park. And also, I've been doing a very special set of broadcasts where I've been interviewing Dr. Baugh, who has a Creation Evidence Museum in Glen Rose, Texas. It's located along the Paluxy River, and the reason he has his museum there is because that's where they were excavating human footprints and dinosaur prints in the same strata of rock. And the reason this is so significant, Dr. Baugh has made reference to this, that one of the leading evolutionists said if you could prove that dinosaurs and people existed at the exact same time, evolution is dead. It has to have hundreds of millions of years separation in between them, and yet here are human footprints and dinosaur prints together. And so that's where they found them, right there in Glen Rose, Texas, and that's the reason Dr. Baugh put his museum there. So we've already talked for a few days and discussed a number of things, and then on yesterday's program we started walking around and looking at some of the evidence. And I hadn't got time to go back through it. I think that today on our program we will recap just a little bit of this wall of truth and go back and make some of these points. But he showed human tools, human cups, footprints, a fossilized print of a sandal. You could see the stitching on it with a trilobite in it, a little animal that was supposed to be hundreds of millions of years separated from that strata of rock that it was in. And all of these things are evidence that proves that this whole long year dating thing that people do to say that evolution took hundreds of millions of years, it's not true. All of these layers of rock were laid down in a very short period of time during Noah's flood, and it's just not the way that we've been told, and there is evidence to prove that. So that's what we did on our program yesterday. We're going to continue that tour, and then on today we're going to go into this biosphere that Dr. Baugh is creating to replicate what he believes the conditions were before Noah's flood and how that would account for the large animals, the large plants, and a lot of different things like that. So watch this and I'll come back at the end of the program today.
The base to the dry land is the granite. And according to evolutionary theory, it took 50 million years for that granite to form. But the scripture says, let the dry land appear, and the dry land appeared.
In one day.
Not only one day, in one sentence.
Well, that's true, but I mean, it was what, the third day of creation?
Third day of
it wasn't
creation?
Spread out over hundreds of millions of years.
That's right. But watch closely. In that granite are these tiny little halos. Among those halos, without any associated daughter relationships, meaning they're isolated, so we have to consider them as specific units. We have the halos left by polonium-214. The half-life of polonium-214 is 0.000164 seconds. Now, you're a math major.
That's quick.
That's quick. It's faster than you can snap your finger.
Yeah.
That means that that granite was created, functionally mature, and recording what was in it, recording the pleochroic halos faster than we can snap our finger. In other words, what you found today is there's evidence for creation, just like the Bible said.
Now, you stated that very good, but let me give a layman's interpretation that this means that for those radioactive things, that their half-life is less than the snap of a finger. If it took longer than that to form this rock, all of those isotopes would have disappeared.
Sure
they would have been gone. So for all of these isotopes to be locked in granite, it means that granite was formed quicker than that, or those isotopes would all be gone.
You're right.
That's awesome. That's my layman's explanation of your technical thing.
Good job. Good
But
job.
this is great. This is just tremendous. So all of these layers, how did they get there at different times, or were they all put there simultaneously?
Not simultaneously. It took a year, you know.
Like waves?
Waves, sure. And it took, now the fountains of the great deep caused the flood at the beginning. They ruptured. Then the windows of heaven were opened, channel windows were cut into that canopy, and it began to rain, ran 40 days and nights. But it took 150 days for the fountains to be assuaged, to stop.
Right.
So we have 150 days of this material being ruptured up from the internal structure of the earth and then spread out. And some of it spread out over maybe a few states, some over many states, some of it worldwide, because you'd have tremendous amounts of it, smaller amounts of it, and that's what we find in the geologic record. You'll find sheets of it running over a quarter of a state, sheets of it running over 2 or 3 states, 11 states, etc., and some of it running around the world.
Now let me ask you what this white thing is here that goes up into a different strata of rock. What is this?
Okay, that's a plume. So we have represented, and I'm glad Bob called attention to the polystrate fossil, showing that this was in place and these formed very rapidly around this. So again, we're talking about
so this one plant did not live hundreds of millions of years.
That's right. But this plume is very significant. Here we have the white material.
Is that limestone, or?
That's a limestone, and that's from Utah, where they have a lot of these plumes. But the other material is laid in tidal impacts, one layer after another upon it. But it is so pliable that its weight causes that plume to thrust up into it. So in other words, all of that is pliable. It is not yet cured, lithified, hardened into real hard rock. That shows it's rapid and it's in succession.
And so all of this weight that was upon it just forced some of that pliable material up into
the cracked material, because that was still pliable, was yet unconsolidated.
I bet that doesn't fit into evolutionary theory either.
Oh, no.
So how do they deal with those? Is this one of those things that they willfully ignore?
Well, they say those are beautiful plumes, aren't they? And that's all. And the fact that they run up through rock and require a very short time to have elapsed to run up through the rock above them.
And Carl and I have both seen pillar lava up at 14,000 feet on Mount Ararat, too.
Pillar lava is only formed underwater.
Well, you know, I've read that in every culture, like the Chinese, every culture has a worldwide flood.
Over 500 accounts of a worldwide flood.
Among people that don't believe in our God at all, and yet
Correct.
every segment of humanity, without collaboration with the other groups, all have this worldwide flood because it actually happened.
Yes.
That's awesome.
This is the hyperbaric biosphere. Hyperbaric, of course, means added pressure. And in this, we'll be simulating the conditions before the worldwide flood. Now, I do emphasize simulating the conditions. I wasn't there to monitor them.
You aren't sure?
So we'll be simulating these.
You aren't that old, are you?
Not quite. Carefully, we go in. This is the airlock we're in now.
Okay, and you use this to preserve the pressure and the oxygen content.
That's right. The pressure will be maintained in here, and when I want to go in, we will pump this up to that pressure, then open the door and then reverse.
So you've actually got a sphere inside of a sphere,
That's
is that right? So that's quite a bit of protection.
And all of this weighs 92,000 pounds.
Wow.
Watch your head, please.
You must have had to put in quite a foundation to accommodate this.
And getting this across the adjacent bridge over the Biloxi River was difficult. And this is hyperbolic. That is, the ends are rounded, they're oval. And it's easy to sing in here.
What is the purpose for having the ends rounded?
The physics of the pressure over a long period of time.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think that the ends could be blown out, but the seams can be blown out.
Like an arch.
Yes.
It carries the weight better.
That's correct.
So what are you going to eventually put in here? What is this going to do?
Well, first of all, we're going to put baffles in here so the sound will not echo. So it'll pick it up and the sound will be natural. When we pump it up to 2 atmospheres, the sound will be even better, will carry even better. We will have a water table with snail darter fish that jump out of the water and go back in.
I thought those were endangered.
They were, but I think we'll be able to get a few. Among other things, we're going to bring in a tuatara lizard. Tuatara lizards from New Zealand have 4 holes in their heads, in their skull, 4 little holes, called foramen. Those foramen are for blood vessels and nerves to run to the inside to connect with the brain in the interior of the skull. Modern reptiles have 2 foramen in their skulls, but tuatara lizards have 4, and dinosaurs have 4. So technically, the tuatara lizard is a dinosaur. So we're going to bring some in here.
So with the things that we discussed earlier, with the increased pressure, oxygen content, these things should start growing and reproducing larger animals.
And long-lived animals. And the birds, we're going to have canaries and other birds in here. Now, eggs breathe through the membrane, the crust of the egg, the shell. And they don't get enough oxygen. But under this pressure, the birds should be smarter. They should retain more of their brain function. And it's going to be real exciting. So can you imagine listening to canaries?
Well, according to the evolutionary model, you might create some animal that could replace us and take over.
Well, maybe I should abort this thing. You know? But evolution's not true. So.
I know it.
And we're going to have Manchurian peaches that grow on vines, various plants hanging from these trappings at the top. And we're going to have a water table where we can run the nutrients and use hydroponics for the plants. The plants should be beautiful. They should be well saturated with nutrients.
Now, what kind of ultraviolet light, or what are you going to have in here on that?
We're going to filter out the intense ultraviolet because the canopy would have filtered out the intense ultraviolet. But we will still get full spectrum light, just leaving out the intense ultraviolet, the extreme ultraviolet. And we're going to run various experiments. We're going to plant a watermelon in here. Someone grew a watermelon 800 pounds.
I've seen pictures of the stuff like that. So in theory, your plants that you're planting should be gigantic in here.
They should be gigantic because that's what we find in the fossil record.
Now, have you ever done this in any of your other spheres that you've got?
We've only worked with reptiles and fruit flies, Drosophila melanogaster fruit flies, and rattlesnakes and copperheads. So we're going to work with reptiles, but we'll keep them, you know, in their cages.
Now, you mentioned this earlier about the fruit flies, but I don't remember you saying what the results of it was. What happened to the fruit flies?
In the 2nd generation, we tripled the adult lifespan of the fruit flies. That's the equivalent of you and I, even with our damaged DNA, living to be 200 years of age. Even with our damaged.
And that was the 2nd generation.
That was the 2nd generation.
Wow.
And we didn't use any extreme nutrients. We just fed them standard stock. And we didn't use intense nutrients to get that kind of growth. We just wanted to see what would happen naturally.
Now, you had also mentioned that you're going to install like cameras in here so that
That's
like
right.
on your online, you were mentioning that you're going online, people will actually be able to see the biosphere and the experiments
That's
that are being
right.
done?
When we raised the sufficient funds to get all of this online and to get our streaming webcast online, we have 12 domains already captured. So 2 or 3 of those domains will be dedicated to this biosphere. So anywhere in the world, once this is online and once we've raised the funding to get the streaming webcast and everything in place, which will take about $300,000 to finish this, about $10,000 per month to maintain it, $5,000 a month to photograph all of our daily telecasts, webcasts, and to put them online. So it'll take the hand of God to do that.
Well, you know, we just might have some people watching this broadcast that would like to be a part of that. Wouldn't that be awesome
wonderful
to get this on? I imagine that would probably be a thorn in the side of the evolutionists.
Oh, they would despise it, but I would rejoice.
Now, is there any other experiments like this being done that you're aware of?
No, and I hold the patents on the biosphere.
Oh, so this is patented. So
This is patented.
So if you get this going, this will be the only one of its kind.
The only one that's ever been built since God built one before the flood.
Wow.
And we'll run other experiments. Now, we will not be running medical experiments. We will not be working with human beings. We have medical scientists who are qualified, but to bring them in is a very expensive proposition. So we're going to work with animals and plants and insects and reptiles, that sort of thing. But it's going to be very, very
That'll be exciting.
And we should be able to produce a lepidodendron plant that's a club moss that today gets about that tall. We should be able to produce them where they want to grow out of this thing, because the genetics are the same, and you put them under these conditions.
So this is what? 7-something feet from where we're standing?
From where we're standing, it's an 11-foot ID. It's 11-foot diameter. And
so you take a plant that normally grows a foot to 13, 14 inches and get it to grow 7 foot. That's a huge growth.
Yes, but even more dramatic is the dragonfly. In the fossil record, the dragonfly is called Melanogaster. And, Meganeuropsis, called Meganeuropsis. And
you had me on the first one. I wouldn't have known the difference. Maybe somebody else watching this program would say he missed it, but you could have fooled me.
The dragonfly today gets maybe 4 or 6 inch wingspan at best. But in the fossil record,
yeah, I've seen that.
Oh, it's been found up to a 56-inch wingspan. In Italy, they found one wing, and you multiply that and put the thorax and everything together, you've got a 56-inch wingspan. If in this chamber we can produce a dragonfly with a 10-inch wingspan, that's made an incredible scientific
That's
statement.
double, right?
That's double.
And what is the lifespan of a dragonfly? How long would it take you to see a generation?
Well, the nymphs take the better part of a year, so it's going to take a year or two to realize that.
I know those fruit flies were only, what, 19 days?
14 days from egg to larva to pupa, and then 14 days in the adult phase.
Yeah.
So, they're not.
But man, in a couple of years, you could see some miraculous results.
Major results.
Again, I don't know how people would deal with this.
Well, the evolutionary community would have difficulty. And the fact that we would be streaming this with the experiments being performed before a global audience, with nothing to hide, simply fact and truth to appreciate, this will make a major statement.
Of course, just like so many other things that the evolutionists just reject your human footprint, dinosaur print, there will be people, I'm sure, that will reject it, but to anybody whose heart is open, what a great day we live in to have the internet, that the whole world could see this if they want to.
So pray that we'll be able to generate the funds to do
That's
it.
awesome. I agree with you.
And we agree in heart and in spirit. We have the technology, we have the technicians, we have the background research. Now, we will learn a lot in the process because this is cutting-edge technology. And Bob Summers, that you met earlier, plans, once we get this online, he, of course, has been recognized as the world's greatest sculptor, and that's not an exaggeration. He is planning to come in here and spend a couple of weeks and sculpt a likeness of the hands of God creating Adam. I can hardly wait to see that.
That'd be great. That'll be awesome. Well, I'm excited to see this. I heard about this on your videos maybe 15, 20 years ago, and your theory about this, and that someday you might do this, and it's really something to see it in process.
It's in the process.
Maybe we'll be able to come back someday when it's actually functional and follow this up. We'll take these pictures and then show what it's turned into, and that would be awesome.
Come inside and photograph this.
That'd be great. So praise God. I hope that really ministers to you. To me, this is just proof. It's evidence that disproves evolution. And I asked Dr. Baugh, I said, why do evolutionists not respond to this? How do they respond to this? And he made a point of saying that they intentionally will not address these issues. They choose to believe that it took hundreds of millions of years for all of these different strata of rock to form. And yet all of these things that he's shown disprove that. Also, I'm very excited about this biosphere that he's building. You know, as I mentioned on a previous broadcast, one of the ladies that works with us here, her husband had sugar diabetes, and he had a foot operation, and because of the circulation problems, his foot just was not healing. And the same thing that Dr. Baugh said about his wife and how she had this burn, and she took this hyperbaric treatment where they increased the oxygen content and the pressure, and I mean within 45 minutes, something that normally takes 10 days to healed. Well, she testified that her husband went through some of this same treatment, and his foot finally healed up from these hyperbaric treatments. And so this explains a lot of things. It explains a lot of things about how men lived so long before the flood. Prior to the flood, like Noah lived to be 900, and I forget exactly, but I think it was around 960 years old. But after the flood, the lifespan of man began to decrease rapidly. So that when Abraham lived, I think Abraham lived to be 175 years old, and he was only 2 or 3 generations removed from the flood. He was just a very short period of time. Matter of fact, Noah's children, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, were still alive in Ur of the Chaldees when Abraham left there. And so it wasn't that long removed, and yet he was considered to be a very old man at the age of 175. And then Moses lived to be 120, and that was considered a very long life for him. And Moses is the one who wrote in Psalms chapter 90 that man's years will be 80 years and 10. And yet the man who wrote that lived to be 120 years old. So you see that lifespan began to decrease rapidly after the after the flood. And so I believe that there were different conditions, and all of these things that Dr. Baugh is saying have really made sense to me, and I offer these things to you as explanation for some of these things that people are saying had to have happened, hundreds of millions or even billions of years ago. It can all be explained by the worldwide flood of Noah. Now, we're going to continue to interview Dr. Baugh, but after I get through with my interview with him, we're also going to interview a Dr. Grady McMurtry, and he has information about the flood specifically and relating to creationism versus evolution, and we're just going to be making this point, and I think it's going to be a real blessing. Again, let me remind you that I have this brand new book, study guide, and brand new teaching on CD and DVD that I've entitled Christian Philosophy. And it's not only a Christian teaching, but we also have charts, graphs, information. It's kind of a reference book for a lot of things concerning abortion, homosexuality, creationism, and many different things. So this is a great, great tool, different than anything I've ever done before. Listen to our announcer as he gives you some information, and please call or write today for these materials. I was really blessed by the things that I saw about this biosphere and all of the potential for growing these dragonflies that are huge, these plants. I think that would be a tremendous testimony to these truths and an explanation about creation versus evolution. And so, personally, I am supporting the building of this. I think Dr. Baugh said that he needed around $300,000 to finish that project, and I've basically committed over the next year or so to doing about half of that. And so I'm helping him with this project. I know that many of you are probably excited and see the potential of this, and I would like to encourage you to go directly to the website of Creation Evidence Museum. You can see that information on our screen. And I'd encourage you to help support this. I think it'd be a great deal. So I'm making this available to you, and if God speaks to you about it, please do whatever He puts in your heart.
If you'd like to join Andrew in supporting Dr. Baugh and the Biosphere Project, visit their website at creationevidence.org. Andrew's complete teaching titled Christian Philosophy is available in a brand new book for a gift of any amount. This teaching is also available in a companion study guide that's perfect for home groups, Sunday schools, and for individual study. It's been designed so that anyone, anywhere, at any time can reach an unbeliever, disciple a new believer, or grow with others in the Lord. Not only is the entire teaching included in the study guide, you can also print off as many copies as you like when you download the PDF files from the included data CD. This valuable resource is available for a gift of $35 or more. Or you can get this teaching on either CD or DVD as seen on TV. Each is available for a gift of any amount. To see all the ways you can get today's teaching series, go to awmi.net and click on Today's TV Offer. The fifth audio teaching in today's series is titled Creation versus Evolution, Part 1. It's available for a gift of any amount when you write or call. We encourage everyone to give, but if you're simply unable to afford it, Andrew and his partners will provide this fifth CD free of charge. You can use your credit card to order resources through our website at awmi.net. And while you're there, you can discover more product details and download additional free resources. Or you can order through our helpline Monday through Friday from 4:30 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. Mountain Time. Our helpline number is 719-635-1111. If the lines are busy, remember you can order ministry materials 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at awmi.net. To write us, use the address on your screen. We appreciate your generosity and hope to hear from you today. We'd like to point out Andrew's upcoming speaking schedule. Mark your calendars to come meet Andrew at one of these events and let the Word of God transform your life. He'll be in Warwick, England for the Andrew Wommack Ministries of Europe Ministers Conference October 22nd through the 24th, in Kampala, Uganda for a Gospel Truth Seminar October 26th and 27th, at the Glory of Christ Church in Kampala Sunday, October 28th. He'll also be in the Dallas-Fort Worth area for a Gospel Truth Seminar November 8th through the 10th, and at Calvary Cathedral in Fort Worth on Sunday, November 11th. For more details on Andrew's next meeting in your area, call our helpline or visit our website at awmi.net.
Meet World Changers, Tom and Cindy Boyd, Charis Bible College graduates, class of 2004. After serving an internship in Colorado Springs, they opened Charis Bible College Atlanta in August of 2005.
Basically, we're just duplicating ourselves and making disciples to go and to share the love of God and to teach.
Over the years, Tom and Cindy have witnessed the power of the truth to set people free.
I thank God for Charis Bible College because it's taught me that there are leadership qualities within me.
It's the best place in the world to find Jesus and to know His love that passes all your understanding.
It just changes people for the better.
If you'd like to find out more about Charis Bible College Atlanta, visit their website at www.cbcatlanta.org.